Okay, guys, let's talk about the report from Larry Brooks stating the Panthers interested in dealing for Bobrovsky as a prelude to enticing him to sign what would be an 8-year extension. Brassard would likely be part of the package going to Columbus in return, we're told. So this is huge. We've heard the rumors about the Panthers possibly inquiring about both Bobrovsky and Panarin. Maybe a Panarin report comes out sooner rather than later. Columbus has kind of been falling down the playoff position. They're now in the second wild card spot as I record this today. But yeah, Bobrovsky to Florida is really interesting. Obviously, a pending UFA. Florida's not really in a playoff race here. Let's talk about a potential package that could be mustered up here, and then talk about how this could impact the Panthers moving forward as well. So we could talk about different packages. It really depends if the Panthers want to look into dealing a prospect or if they want to deal some of their roster players and getting Panarin back. It's really risky. For me, it would start with obviously Brassard. I think Brassard would be in there. James Reimer for sure would be in there. I think the Panthers' first round pick is for Columbus. That's pretty intriguing. That could be a top 10, top 15 pick. And then you'd be getting Bobrovsky. There could be a prospect in there. Again, it really depends. Bobrovsky, Panarin, who's in there. It'd be obviously a huge deal if it was both Bobrovsky and Panarin, but obviously a tougher deal because there would have to be contingencies, conditional picks, because again, Bobrovsky and Panarin are both pending UFAs. If there's no contingency, if there's no guarantee that they're re-signing these guys or re-signing Bobrovsky in general, then it becomes a huge risk for Florida, who I think has the pieces to compete, has the pieces to be a fringe playoff team, but they just haven't been able to put it together. I mean, we could look at the Columbus Blue Jackets, who, I mean, they're pretty solid on the back end. So if they add a guy like Brassard, that adds to the depth up front, and especially down the middle. You got guys like Pierre-Luc Dubois. You've got your Brandon Davinsky. And I mean, we've heard rumors about a couple guys in Columbus, even besides Panarin, Bobrovsky possibly being moved. We could talk about Josh Anderson as a big name who's kind of been thrown around with different teams throughout both the East and Western Conference. I know Montreal and Toronto have inquired about him at some points. I know the Canucks were even in there at one point. So it's a really interesting situation for the Blue Jackets, but I think more interesting for the Florida Panthers because the Blue Jackets really, it's the decision's in their hands. Obviously, you could compare it to a John Tavares. A lot of people might even take into account that they think it might be a John Tortorella thing, just a coach and player not being on the same page. So for the Florida Panthers, I mean, both teams are taking risks. Don't get me wrong, but for the Florida Panthers, if they're going to give a big package and possibly lose Bobrovsky, then that's really risky. But for what Larry Brooks said, if Bobrovsky signs an 8-year deal immediately after an 8-year extension, James Reimer would for sure have to go the other way, and Luongo, who I believe has multiple years left on his contract. He would have a very solid guy to be in front of him, with Luongo possibly being played for 25 to 30 plus games. So it would kind of take the workload off Bobrovsky. Bobrovsky, who's obviously always really solid in the season, but kind of finds his struggles in the playoffs. Maybe that helps him. It's a direct comparison to guys like Carey Price and Freddie Anderson, who sometimes get too much of a workload and then can't do well in the playoffs. Obviously, Montreal now with Niemi. The Leafs kind of, I don't know, Garrett Sparks has obviously struggled. So even for the Blue Jackets, it'd be interesting to see if they would have to go out and get like a Jimmy Howard or something, because for me, I don't know if a Korpisalo and James Reimer tandem is really that intriguing for a team that could go deep into the playoffs with the right combination. So I just wanted to have a quick conversation about it, guys. So report Bobrovsky maybe to the Panthers. We'll talk more about Panarin as the weeks lead into the trade deadline. But obviously Panarin came out and said for him that he will not be deciding until year's end. And for Bobrovsky, who for me it seems like has had more public issues, and we saw the game that he sat out, so it seems like he's kind of having more issues than Panarin. And we really haven't gotten a public statement from or not really a statement because I feel like there'd be issues there, but anything that released or came out about Bobrovsky, if he would re-sign now or later. But speculation is a big thing, especially when it's from trusted insiders. Larry Brooks, especially from the U.S. side of things, especially sometimes the New York area, seems to have a lot of accurate information. So I definitely trust this source. And we'll see what happens leading up to the deadline for the Blue Jackets and Panthers. So guys, please subscribe to the channel, drop a like. Hopefully you enjoy the content, quick conversation about it, and we'll see you quite soon. All right, have a good one. Peace out.